But of course, not wishing to reflect on the other place, Mr President, I shall instead merely shake my head with no small degree of frustration. I will also urge members that if you do not believe proposed laws will be effective or functional, then don't vote for them. If something is fundamentally bad law, then don't facilitate its progress. That is the fundamental principle of serving in the public interest and delivering good governance. Mr President, in closing my second reading contribution here on this incredibly flawed bill, I fundamentally and in principle oppose the premise of mandatory or presumptive sentencing, as do all experts and evidence-based positions on this bill. On this principle. I particularly oppose this interference in the court's jurisdiction in such a manner which asserts that assault on one group of workers within our community is more unacceptable and egregious than if the same assault was inflicted on another Tasmanian in another line of employment. Not only does that turn on its head any sense of egalitarian and equitable society, it just doesn't make sense. For example, Mr President, let's consider the proposal for the introduction of industrial manslaughter laws. The premise of that campaign is that all workers have a right to go home unmaimed at the end of their workday. And I have long been on the public record supporting that premise. That is about enshrining an egalitarian and fair principle across all employees. It is not saying only one group of selected groups of workers are entitled to the presumption of going home at the end of the day. It's about ensuring our legal framework restores a balance and protects human rights in an equitable, egalitarian manner. Imagine if we were to try and pass legislation that created different classes of workers and limited the offence of industrial manslaughter to only one class of workers. That wouldn't wash, and rightly so. Adding more employment types and categories to the list we have in this bill, designated frontline workers, is also not the solution. In this context, lists become exclusive by their very existence rather than inclusive. They are unfair and unequitable. Mr President, this is a bad law. It is wrong in intent and bad in practice, and I cannot support the bill.